The winning blueprint presents.
Draft Zone.
Welcome. This is the Draft Zone. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the 2013 NFL Draft wrap-up. Here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Going to wrap up the NFL Draft for every team in the National Football League. Today we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we're looking at all the draft picks that they made. We're going to analyze them, break them down, give them a score, come up with an aggregate score for all of the players, and come up with a score for the draft as a whole for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the picks themselves aren't going to be the sole basis for the scores that are given out. Of course, we're going to use our baseball grading scale, single, double, triple, home run. There will be no strikeouts because even if the pick isn't one that I thought should have been necessary or made, it doesn't take away from the fact that we don't know what these players are going to do in the league. And everyone's board is different. Someone else's fifth round pick is another team's third round selection. And so you can't criticize a team for doing this or doing that. In one person's eyes or one team's eyes, a player could be a gem. In another player's eyes or another person or another franchise's eyes, this player could be completely off of their board. And so it varies from team to team. And so I'll look at the picks for what they are, look at the players, look at the picks where they were made, and how these players might be able to contribute to the Buccaneers in the 2013 season and moving forward. So without any further ado, let's get to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their draft board and see what they were able to accomplish in the 2013 NFL Draft. So I have my trusty, handy-dandy big board behind me. I've got my pointer. I'm ready to go. So let's look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their draft. And so you look at the Buccaneers, and here are their needs. Wide receiver, cornerback, tight end, defensive line, quarterback. As we look at a player that they drafted, if it meets one of the needs, we'll take it off of the needs list. So we start in the second round. Again, remember, Tampa Bay did not own a first-round selection because of the Revis trade, which you essentially got a first-round talent in Darrelle Revis, and so you trade that away to the Jets. You start drafting in the second round at pick 43. And with that selection, you take cornerback Jonathan Banks out of Mississippi State. And on this big board, you got the round, pick, player, position, school. And so we started round 2, pick 43, Jonathan Banks, corner out of Mississippi State. To me, you got the better of the two corners. A lot of people are talking about Darius Slay and the upside that he brings to the table. He was drafted about 7, 8, maybe 9 picks before Jonathan Banks. But to me, you got the better corner here. To me, Banks is a long, athletic corner. Look, the top end speed isn't there. He's a 4.55 guy. Doesn't matter. He's always around the football because he's 6'2". And when you're long, and that's the type of corner that the NFL is making a switch to. The long, lanky, athletic corner. Not necessarily the fastest guy, but he's going to be around the football. And when you're long, when you're 6'2", you're going to be around. You're always one step away. And he's got 34-inch arms. And so this guy is extremely long. He's not afraid to come up and tackle. Now, yeah, he could weigh a little bit more. He's about $185. That's pretty light, especially for a 6'2" frame. However, Banks is a guy that I wouldn't mind having on the outside. He's a press cover corner. He can play man. He can play zone. He can play off. He can play up on the coverage. And so I like Jonathan Banks a lot. I think you got the better of the two Mississippi State corners. Again, Darius Slay is a corner that a lot of people think has a higher upside. I think Banks is the better corner. He's definitely better right now. He's ready to go right now, day one. Jonathan Banks is a starter in his league. Darius Slay, maybe not so much. So I think you got the better player here at cornerback at Mississippi State. And I love the pick for the Buccaneers. I think they hit an absolute triple here with this first pick for them in this draft. Second round, 43rd pick overall, Jonathan Banks, corner out of Mississippi State. For me, the triple for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think it was a really good pick. It fits exactly what the Buccaneers like to do on defense. And so Banks, 6'2 corner out of Mississippi State, your first selection in this draft. You look at the third round, your second pick in this draft. Pick 73, Mike Glennon, quarterback out of NC State. Whoa. Looks like someone is being put on notice. And of course, if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Now, before we move on to Glennon, Banks meets a need. So let's take that cornerback off our list. So we go back to Glennon now. And you look at Glennon. Here's a huge physical specimen. We're talking about a 6'6", 6'7" quarterback. Huge arm. Big time pro arm. He's got arm talent. Cannot be denied. Sometimes the decision making, questionable. But you can't deny the height, which gives you pocket presence automatically. When you're 6'7", you can see over the line. You see everything as it's developing. He's got the arm to match the height. And so Mike Glennon, to me, has all the tools necessary. Okay, not the most athletic guy. We know that. And that's to be expected. You're 6'7", you're long, you're rangy. Tough for guys that tall to move around that fast. Again, but I like Mike Glennon a lot. He played some really good football at NC State at times. Again, here's a guy that was inconsistent. When he was on, one of the best in college football. When he was off, very skittish, very inconsistent. And so Mike Glennon has the tools to be a starter in this league. Tampa Bay thinks so. They draft him in the third round. And what this says is it screams, hey, we're not sold on you, Josh Freeman. You're going into the last year of your deal. You're going to have to prove to us that you belong as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting quarterback. And this is it for Josh Freeman in Tampa Bay. If he doesn't get it done in 2013, if he has, let's just put it this way. If he has a year similar to what he had in 2012, he won't be back as Tampa Bay Buccaneers starter. And that's a really gaudy statement that I just made because 27 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, that's not a bad season, especially for Josh Freeman, but it's how the interceptions came. He had 2 4-interception games, one against New Orleans, one against the Rams. You lost both of those games that you probably could have won. The Rams game, that should have been a win. You were at home. You can't lose to the St. Louis Rams at home. The Saints game, that was an absolute obliteration. You did not score a point in that game. You were abused. And his 4 interceptions just helped the Saints along in that game. But you can't turn it over 4 times at the quarterback position at any point, at any game in the season. And so for him to do that twice, that probably rubbed Greg Schiano and their coaching staff the wrong way. Josh Freeman has to be more consistent. And so if he can't bring those interception numbers way down, keep the touchdown passes up, he's probably not going to be back. And here's the guy that's going to push him, Mike Glennon, 3rd round pick, 73rd overall selection in the draft by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, quarterback out of NC State. That is a huge pickup. It has huge implications for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving forward. If Josh Freeman works out, then Glennon's your backup. But he'll always be within earshot of starting at the quarterback position, even if Josh Freeman is retained. Say he has a breakout year in 2013, Bucs have him back and sign him to a 4-year extension or a 4-year deal. Glennon will still be here, and he'll still be breathing down the neck of Josh Freeman. This draft pick here is a franchise changer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because it's going to force the hand of the Buccaneers. Do you keep Josh Freeman or do you go in the direction of your third round selection? And again, if Glennon is the guy, he's going to be tied to Greg Schiano and this coaching staff. And so you must be careful here if you're Schiano. But I like Glennon. I like the pick. I think he has all the tools necessary to be a starter in this league and a really, really good one. Mike Glennon, third round selection for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from NC State, quarterback. To me, that's a triple because that's a ballsy move. If you remember, Glennon was the third quarterback selected in this draft. So he came off the board relatively early. E.J. Manuel goes in the first. Geno Smith goes in the second. Glennon goes in the third. So right here, that lets you know the Buccaneers are really sold on Mike Glennon. And so now it's put up or shut up time for Josh Freeman. But to me, this pick is a triple. Ballsy move by the Buccaneers, going and getting their guy in Mike Glennon. And we'll see what this move actually means for Josh Freeman moving forward. So with that Glennon pick, we get another need knocked off the board right away. Quarterback. We'll go ahead and take that off the list. And so now we move on to the fourth round selection, third pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this draft. We're at pick 100. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Akeem Spence, defensive tackle out of Illinois. And this pick was via the Oakland Raiders. So you're picking with one of your two fourth-round selections. And so you get a defensive tackle here. And I like Akeem Spence. I think this is a solid pick by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here's a guy that is extremely strong and physical. Okay? Had one of the best benches at the combine. 37 reps of 2 1/4. So that lets you know right there, this guy is an animal. He's a big, strong, physical guy. Not always, though, does that strength translate to the field. You'd like to see it translate to the field more, but he's a strong guy. He's a big, physical guy. And when he's on, he's a force in the middle. So Spence, to me, very light on his feet for his size. We're talking about a 6'2", 6'3", defensive tackle that's about 307. We're talking about a defensive tackle that's about 307 pounds. So we're talking about a fairly big man. But actually very light on his feet. Can move around. He's stout at the point of attack. Doesn't always disengage the way you want him to. But he's stout at the point of attack. He can move down the line. Again, very athletic. Again, light on his feet. So you get athleticism, you get strength, you get the total package with Akeem Spence. Is he going to be Roy Miller for you? No. I don't think he's going to be as quick as Roy Miller was. Now again, Roy Miller wasn't getting after the quarterback. Neither will Akeem Spence. That's not his strong suit. He will not get after the quarterback. But what he will do is, and this is big for the Buccaneers, help you stop the run, which is what you were the best at last year. No one in the National Football League was better at stopping the run than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You lose a guy like Roy Miller, you lose a guy like Bennett on the edges, you got to replace them. Here's the replacement for Roy Miller right here in Akeem Spence. I look for him to start at some point. Maybe not start the regular season. He might not be in the starting lineup as soon as the season starts. But trust and believe, by the midpoint of the season, this guy will be looking to get more and more snaps. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was starting relatively early to the middle of this season at some point, getting starter snaps and reps. So look out for Akeem Spence. I think this is a great move by the Buccaneers. They want to stop the run. And here's a guy that's going to help you do it here at the fourth round selection at 100. Akeem Spence, defensive tackle out of Illinois. So you're looking at a double for me here. I like the pick. I like the value. I think this is a solid pick by the Buccaneers. You look at their second fourth round selection at 126. William Golston, defensive end out of Michigan State. You hear Golston and you think of Vernon Golston, which is his cousin. And so here's a guy that's coming into the league, and there's a lot of potential here. But I'm really not sure if I'm sold on this pick or not. Let me explain to you why I'm not sold on this pick. This is a pick from New England, first of all. And so before we even move on and talk about Golston and why I think that this may or may not be a great fit in Tampa. You just met another need on the defensive line. Let's go ahead and mark that off. And so, talking about Golson now. Here's a big man. We're talking about 6'6", 280 to 285 pounds, somewhere in that general vicinity. We're talking about a really big man. Okay? So, when he's on, hard to block, hard to stop. Okay? He's a big physical man. Problem is, he's very inconsistent. You don't know from play to play what you're getting out of William Golson. When he's on, forget about it. Forget about it. When he's not engaged mentally, he's a guy that can be non-existent on your defensive line. But that's not why I'm not sure if this is a great fit in Tampa Bay or not. Why I'm not sure about this selection is because he's a big guy. Okay? If you were to start this guy at some point, he would be the replacement to Michael Bennett. As we all know, Michael Bennett got great pressure for you off the edges at defensive end. I think Golson is more of a 3-4 defensive end. In other words, he's a 5 technique in the National Football League. You play a 4-3 defensive front. I'm not sure if he fits that to a T or not. I don't know if he fits that mold of a 4-3 defensive end. I think he's more of a 3-4 5 technique defensive end in this league. And so I'm not sure if he fits into what you're actually doing in Tampa Bay. Yes, he can help you stop the run. This guy's immovable on the edges when he's definitely engaged and mentally motivated. When this guy is focused, you're not moving him off of the edge. He sets the edge. You're not running to his side. But when he gets blocked, and he's not engaged mentally, he's non-existent. But with his height and his size, I think the added value in drafting him is a guy that can knock down passes. At 6'6", just standing up and putting your arms up, you're going to knock down passes in this league. And he was really good at that in his senior season. He really became adept at that in his senior year. And so that's added value there, but I question whether he's a great fit in Tampa Bay because of his scheme. He needs to be scheme diverse. And I think that he's more of a 3-4-5 technique. You're going to play him in the 4-3 at the 4 technique. So we'll see how this all shapes up for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But you get William Golson, defensive end out of Michigan State, in the 4th round at pick 126. I think that's a double as well. You look at your 5th round selection at 147. Steven Means, defensive end out of Buffalo. Small school guy here. Okay? Not an absurd amount of production. And when you go draft a small school guy, this is a 6'3", 255, 265 pound defensive end. This is more of the mold of a Tampa Bay Buccaneer defensive end. More so than Golson is. And so, when you go and get a guy from a small school like a Buffalo, like Steven Means is, a small school prospect, I'm looking for extreme production. I'm looking for you to dominate the competition. So what that you went to a small school? Dominate the guys they put in front of you. I'm not sure if he always did that or not. We're talking about a guy that in the course of a 3 or 4 year career, maybe total 12 to 15 sacks in his career. That's not earth-shattering, eye-popping numbers. That's not huge production. So I kind of question, is this guy a very productive defensive end, or do the Buccaneers see talent here and they see upside, and if they can coach him up correctly, he could be the next big thing in Tampa Bay? I don't know. We'll see. I do know that William Golson, your 2nd, 4th round selection, is a defensive end. And so that's another D lineman. So we're going to put another mark there on the defensive line. And so I look at Means, and I see a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback. Sure. But is it consistent pressure? That's what you're looking for in the National Football League. Anybody can get pressure on the quarterback once in a blue moon. Can you get consistent pressure on the quarterback? Can you play the run? Are you stout at the point of attack? These are all questions that I have with Steven Means, your defensive end out of Buffalo. Can you do all of these things? I think he's going to be a guy that's going to have to be coached up because this is a different level. You come from Buffalo and you get thrust into action. It's going to be tough. We'll see how he handles that rise in competition. But the Buccaneers saw something in this guy. Their scouting department trusted in their assessment of him, made him a 5th-round pick, and so this guy must have some talent, some upside that the Buccaneers fell in love with. And again, we're back to the defensive line, so let's give the D-line another mark. So that's 3 D linemen in a row for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And what that tells me is that you're trying to replace guys that you lost in free agency, like Roy Miller, like Michael Bennett. You want the production. You want to be able to say, hey, if you're going to beat us, it's going to have to be through the air like it was last year. And this time, you can actually say, hey, I got Darrelle Revis out at the cornerback position, and I have Deshaun Golston back at the safety position. I want you to try and throw the football like you did on me last year because you're not running. That's what the Buccaneers want to continue to do. Stop the run, force you to pass, and have it play right into their strengths, which is now supposed to be a new strength for them with Darrelle Revis on one corner, with Deshaun Golston and Mark Barron back at the safety position. It's supposed to be an area of strength for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they're looking to bolster. With these 3 consecutive picks on the defensive line, they're looking to bolster that front 7 and have it be a nightmare to run on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers like it was a season ago. So I look at Steven Means, and I got questions. I have questions. He's a single for me because I just don't know what I'm getting out of Steven Means. Haven't seen a lot of production in college, and I'm not sure if his game is going to translate well to the National Football League. I have questions, too many that are unanswered right now to give him anything but a single. And so the pick in the 5th round and him combined, to me, equals a single. So we go to the final pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2013 draft. And it's in the 6th round, 189th pick overall, Mike James, running back out of Miami. And this pick comes via the Minnesota Vikings. So when talking about James, here's a running back out of the University of Miami. So we know he played at a big-time college program. He shared the workload with another back. And so you're not sure if he can carry the load by himself. In this league now, in this day and age in the National Football League, you're not looking for guys to carry the load by themselves unless it's an elite back like an Adrian Peterson or a Chris Johnson or someone of that caliber. Guys are sharing carries most of the time. And so he's going to be a complimentary back. I don't think he's a number 1 back in this league, a bell cow. I think he's a guy that comes in and gives you something else. Now, when I say change of pace, that doesn't directly mean speed. It doesn't always mean this guy is going to come in and be faster because James is not. Mike James is not a fast scat back. Okay, 5'11", solidly built, bottom heavy, huge legs, big top as well. I mean, these guys built very solidly. And you need not look any further than his combine benching. He was one of the top running backs at the bench. And this guy tossed it up 2 1/4, well over 20 times. And so he's a big, strong guy, is Mike James. And so he can run the football. Very solid. Not explosive, though. Lacks that explosion you look for in a back with that kind of strength. But again, he's going to run the football. I think he's a very versatile back. Can catch it out of the backfield, can run it as well. So you're getting a different look out of the backfield. I think the Buccaneers need a guy like that out of their backfield. And so Right now, there's not currently a back on your team. I mean, of course, other than Doug E. Fresh. Other than Doug Martin, a.k.a. Doug E. Fresh. You don't have a back that you can trust out of the backfield to catch the football. And so I think Mike James can fit that mold for you. I think he can come in, be a guy that can spell Doug Martin for you, catch a couple of passes out of the backfield, be a safety blanket for a guy like Josh Freeman, run the football a little bit, be a different back in the football game, give you a different dimension. So I like Mike James. I like the pick. I actually like this pick better than your 5th round pick. And so this for me is a double. I like the way you finished up your draft. You got a player that can help you right away. And so that's basically it for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll tell you what I didn't like about this draft. I didn't like the fact that you didn't get a tight end. And with these 3 defensive linemen in a row, I thought it was overkill. The last 2 or 3 seasons, you've been drafting defensive linemen like your mind is going bad. We've seen McCoy drafted. We saw Daquan Bowers drafted. We've seen Adrian Claiborne drafted. And so you've been drafting defensive linemen for a while now. This even goes further back to Gaines Adams. And so to go with 3 defensive linemen here, I know you lost Roy Miller. I know you lost Michael Bennett in free agency. But to go 3 straight defensive linemen, to me, overkill. Overkill. You could have swapped out one of these picks with a tight end. I thought you needed tight end help. I like Luke Stocker. I think he's a solid tight end. But thought you could have went with a younger option at tight end. Or you could have even went receiver. Maybe you guys like Taquan Underwood. I know that your head coach, Greg Schiano, coached him at Rutgers, and so there's a little bit of affinity there for Taquan Underwood. I'm not sure I'm sold on Taquan Underwood quite yet. Thought he had an okay season last year. He's extremely fast, we know that. And so there's added value there with Taquan Underwood, but I would have loved to have seen you go receiver or tight end somewhere in these 5 picks. One of these 4s or that 5. But that's fine. You did what you thought was best for your football team, and I can't knock that. You tally up all that the Buccaneers did in this draft. Triple, triple, double, double, single, double. You average it up, it comes out to a solid double for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a solid draft. I think you really did some serious damage with your first 2 picks. Banks is going to come in, help you right away. Glennon is going to put pressure on Josh Freeman. He's on notice right now. Josh Freeman is on the clock. And he's got 1 season to prove that he belongs as a Tampa Bay Buccaneers starter. So we'll see how that all works out. But I like what you did at the top half of this draft. And I like how you finished it up with Mike James, the running back out of Miami. Solid draft by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that's going to do it for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their 2013 NFL Draft wrap-up.
Draft Zone.